As a parent, I'm angry.
So, Ryan Walters of the Oklahoma State Board of Education recently made an announcement about requiring the education of the Bible in schools. And as a parent with a daughter who will be going to school in a few years, that upsets me. So let's take a look at his announcement, and I'm going to pick this apart because I never wanted to put a non-fun video on my channel, but this requires me to come as not bad news bearers. Nor am I coming as the doctor. I'm coming to you as a concerned father. Let's get into this.
Earlier in the week, this Supreme Court has made some horrendous decisions. This is one of the worst.
Recently, I don't remember what state it was, I think it was like Louisiana or something, ruled that the Ten Commandments has to be widely posted in every classroom, effectively installing indoctrination in classrooms.
What the court did was rule against the parents of Oklahoma who have demanded more choices for their kids.
This part, I'm not sure what he's talking about. I actually didn't get to the point of looking into this, but it actually kind of sounds like he is the one going against parental choice in schools.
We have a great opportunity to make sure that parents have the most options of any parents in the country here in Oklahoma by giving them the ability to go to a public school, charter schools, private schools.
All of which don't need religious teachings. That's what a mythology class is for. Just saying.
So I want you all to know we will continue to fight back against this.
What are you fighting back against? The inability to indoctrinate? I mean, who are you to choose whether or not someone else's child learns your religion?
We want to continue to provide an opportunity for parents to send their kids to high-quality schools.
I'm just going to put Oklahoma's ranking in education on the screen now, and I'm going to let you sit and ruminate in that last statement before we move on.
To be clear, this is an argument that is based on a myth, on a lie.
The myth and the lie is that you and your party are trying to push that the government should bow down to religion instead of allowing religion to be free across the land. Or not established at all, for that matter.
You're not going to find the separation of church and state in the Constitution. It's not there.
Also going to put this on the screen for just a moment. Go ahead and marinate into that one before I move on.
You're not going to see the founders describe religion in this way.
The founders literally stated in the first sentence that you don't establish any law or anything respecting a religion. That's why everyone is free to worship or not worship as they please. And that's why our laws are based on physical being moral, right and wrong, and not a book's version of right and wrong. And let's not forget that some of our founding fathers did practice religion, but we also had some who didn't. But even though we had those differences in ideology, that both sides still agreed that no theology should be what rules. and you guys still don't understand that?
But what you are seeing is a court that lacks an understanding of the Constitution. And we are prepared to challenge this all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court to make sure that religious liberty is protected in the state of Oklahoma.
Religious liberty. We already have that. That's how people can go to a church and worship, or a location of choice for worship. Let's put it that way. Instead of mandating it be everywhere for one specific theology. It kind of sounds like you're the one not understanding this.
So we will continue to work with the school. We will continue to work with the parents who want their kids to go to that school.
What if the parent doesn't want their child going to a school that is trying to indoctrinate their child? Because there are many families that are either a different religion than your Christianity, or there are those who are not religious at all and do not recognize or practice an established religion. You ever think of that? What about them?
We've already been reaching out to how can we help those kids? How can we make sure that these kids and parents are going to be supported no matter what happens in the courts for the time being?
Kind of sounds like you're looking for a way to force more things down their throats, as opposed to what they want, which is not to have the religion in schools. Well, the non-cultists anyway. And mind you, this is just the first half of this press conference he had about his reasonings for what he's about to announce, which is, again, requiring Bibles and the quote-unquote teaching of Bibles in schools. But the thing is, before we get into that, is their fight against things like pornography in schools, or anything inappropriate that they want to take out of, reading materials or such like that. They're not tending to focus or even mention the fact that the Bible has more of the things they are protesting than the things they are removing. But let's go ahead and digress for just a moment. Let's let him begin his second half of his press conference.
We're going to make an important announcement today regarding the Bible and the Ten Commandments.
Is it that they should remain inside of a church? Because that's the only place they should be, outside. Well, a church and inside the house of those who recognize / worship it.
My staff has been looking at Oklahoma statute. We've been looking at Oklahoma academic standards. And it's crystal clear to us that in the Oklahoma academic standards, under Title 70, multiple occasions, the Bible is a necessary historical document to teach our kids about the history of this country, to have a complete understanding of Western civilization.
Hold up. A complete understanding of Western civilization. Aren't we the Western civilization? The Bible teaches of things that happen in the Middle East, with zero mention of the West.
To have an understanding of the basis of our legal system, and is frankly, when we're talking about the Bible, one of the most foundational documents used for the Constitution and the birth of our country.
One of the most foundational pieces that we used for the foundation of the country. We separated ourselves as a country to get away from a theological dictatorship. So why would you think that we would establish strictly a religion that is based by those who we specifically wanted to escape?
We also find major points in history that refer to the Bible, that reference the Bible.
Outside of them referencing the Bible as an inspiration, please tell me what references, you mean?
We see multiple figures, whether we're talking about the Federalist Papers, constitutional conventional arguments, and Martin Luther King Jr., who use it as a tremendous impetus for the civil rights movement and tie many of those arguments back to the Bible.
They don't tie the movements back to the Bible. They use their inspiration from the Bible for their moral compass, which is trying to lead them to lead our country into a direction that isn't brainwashing the youth to be controlled in their adulthood. I mean, we're supposed to be protecting the children and teaching them how to think for themselves, but instead they're being taught to parrot and fear things instead of understanding and growing.
We also find major points in history that refer to the Bible, that reference the Bible. We see multiple figures, whether we're talking about the Federalist Papers, constitutional conventional arguments, and Martin Luther King Jr., who use it as a tremendous impetus for the civil rights movement and tie many of those arguments back to the Bible.
What historical context do you mean outside of quite a few domestic terrorist incidents that refer to religion as their reason for doing what they do? I.e., God told me to do it.
It is essential that our kids have an understanding of the Bible and its historical context. So we will be issuing a memo today that every school district will adhere to, which is that every teacher, every classroom in the state will have a Bible in the classroom and will be teaching from the Bible in the classroom to ensure that this historical understanding is there for every student in the state of Oklahoma in accordance with our academic standards and state law.
What lessons could there possibly be inside of that book that could relate to anything inside of that school, or what they could learn during their time of attendance? The Bible is supposed to teach you right from wrong and how to love your fellow person, not brainwash them into believing what you believe or persecuting them for not doing so. Pretty sure that's called religious persecution. Holy shit, our country is falling into religious persecution. As we take a pause away from the press conference, because that's the meat and potatoes of the press conference itself, I'm going to refer us back to Article 70 of the Oklahoma Board of Academic Standards. I'm sorry. I'm going to be putting them up on the screen so you guys can pause and read the pages as I go, but I am going to abridge each page in each section as I go so you understand what he's referring to, what they're going to do, and exactly how they plan on doing it. You see, in the Oklahoma Academic Standards articles, 70 states in page 1A that a subject, or roughly that subject matter is reviewed and adopted every 6 years to keep up to date. B1 states that education is required to prepare students to be college and career ready, while B2 requires English and mathematics to enable reasonable opportunities in the future, making sure that students are prepared in life so they don't fall on their asses. B3 academic scores require assessment each year for opportunity to keep up-to-date learning material, with B4 basically rehashing the requirements of B3, requiring all documentations of the above sections to be publicly posted for transparency. See, things like that are supposed to keep citizens and parents like us up to date and allow us to assess and take action on things that we do not approve of. Sounds basic so far, right? Keep with me. C1 refers to the standards of high-quality educational standards, while not specifically referring to Oklahoma's standing in the countrywide rankings in education. But I'm going to go ahead and put that on the screen so you see the irony in said situation. While C2 also states more requirements for student assessments in English language and mathematics to ensure college and career readiness. Once again, we're still on a good track here. We're supposed to be keeping up-to-date records and keeping students on track and being able to update learning material for those who aren't keeping up to snuff, or for those who are farther ahead than expected to be. Now, here's where the scary part comes in. Sections D1 and D2, the TLDR is that the state has control over the developmental of academics and no state law can supersede such. The problem with that, however, is that the state law cannot mandate religious text in academia due to the first sentence of the First Amendment. Posting on screen again. Lastly, of D's, 3 basically states that the law cannot appoint any entity over the Board of Education. It's kind of adding to the problem, but also putting a block on it at the same time. Section E basically gives Oklahoma Board of Education impune authority over what subject matter is taught in academia, regardless of established multi-state or multi-governing entity laws. That right there is what they are going to use to rip every possible religious text away from schools except for the Bible and stick that in and mandate it, doing nothing but making sure that our children are being force-fed material that we don't want them exposed to. This is the drag queen argument. Their drag queen argument. Anyway, Section F states the Board of Education has exclusive authority over instruction, curriculum, reading lists, and instructional materials and textbooks, subject to any revision by state law, which is likely what they're going to intend to use to religiously overhaul the entire education system. Which, this is the entire point we have, the entire reason we have churches and places of worship. Your religion belongs in its place of worship and in your home. But it doesn't belong in the educational system because not everyone follows the same theocracy that you do. And then heading towards the end, G states that the Board of Education, or basically allows the Board of Education to adjust academic revisions as they see fit after each end of year assessment. This says that if they don't like how the academia is going the year prior, then they can change it and overhaul it into a way they feel is going to do what they're trying to do better. Meaning, if they don't succeed in indoctrinating you the first time, they're going to try again the next time. H, to put it simply, all subject matter corresponding with state requirements must be educational and not indoctrinational, which ends up completely negating the argument they're trying to make. But I'm pretty sure they'll probably try their damnedest to rip that completely out and just erase it from the articles in the first place. And lastly, any newly established rule that contradicts that which is currently active must be amended. Which means, once they establish what they want in the articles, anything new that someone brings in that is approved that contradicts anything that they don't want it to contradict, say, oh, I don't know, teaching evolution when they want just creationism, then evolution is booted from the books. Kind of like how textbooks are now saying that the Native Americans invited the Pilgrims and things like that. ladies and gentlemen, my channel is strictly for fun. I never wanted to make a serious video for it, but it's no secret that I'm a parent to a brand new baby girl, and she will be going to school in about 4 years. And it's not exactly a secret, I am not a religious person. We are not a religious family. We have zero intention on taking her to any sorts of spiritual worship. Not because we have a problem with it, we just don't practice it. And though we have our reasons for it, we don't disrespect or discount the others that exist. We just wish to live our lives as we see fit, which is to be good people without having the cloud of spiritual damnation over us when we don't believe that there is a such thing. We just want to be good people. We want to live our lives, and we want to raise our daughter to do the same without requiring her good heart to be based on a book that's telling her that she's going to do, or that she's going to burn like a crisp for eternity when she did something wrong. Or she could just be saved by saying, I repent, which completely contradicts the entire thing, and I don't want her confused by that. There are so many arguments that we could get into, but I don't want to. My only point is that I don't want her taught any of that in school. School is to be used to develop the mind for critical thinking, for self-thought, for individualism, for learning whom you are as a person while discovering the world around you. That includes discovering religion, yes. And don't get me wrong, if she gets interested, we have every intention on sitting her down and going through it all. But that's for us as her parents to decide, not the school's choice to shove down her throat just for me to have, or just for her to come home to a house that doesn't recognize it. No, not, I won't say not recognize it. That doesn't, observe it. And a situation like that could also cause families to fall apart, to cause tension in families, there are so many bad things that not only can happen because of this, but will absolutely happen because of this. And it's not fair to the families that have no choice over this, because their choices are now being taken away like everyone else's choices are being taken away. And I'm not a man who's scared of many things, but this does scare me for my daughter's education. Just situations like this show why voting is an important activity for us to do every opportunity we get, especially when it comes to protecting the future of our children. So, thank you for listening to my little rant. I'm sorry this didn't have too much substance else to it besides me giving my own opinions, bouncing off what idiotic things he was saying. But this one just, it hit me somewhere special, and I couldn't help it. But thank you for watching. Thank you for joining me. If you have, or if you agree, feel free to comment. If you disagree, feel free to comment. I'm not here to judge. I just want my daughter to be taught things correctly. I want her to be prepared for life and not be confused or brainwashed.